Formula 2, the premier feeding series to Formula 1, has witnessed its fair share of heart-stopping moments throughout the years. From jaw-dropping collisions to miraculous escapes, these incidents have not only shaped the championship, but also showcased the incredible resilience of both the drivers and their machines. In this video, we'll be taking a closer look at some of the most unforgettable crashes in Formula 2 history. The 2007 Hungarian Grand Prix weekend was one to forget for Luca Filippi. Luca Filippi was cruising in his supernova ride when suddenly, bam, he loses it coming out of that tricky final corner. Next thing you know, Filippi's car is doing its best pinball impression, bouncing off the barriers at what seems like 1,000,000 miles an hour. It's a proper heart-in-your-mouth moment for everyone watching. But wait, it gets wilder. As Filippi's car decides to take a spin, literally, back across the track, it catches Vitaly Petrov with a love tap. Now Petrov's along for the ride too, and poor Shenji Negrao, wrong place, wrong time, my friend. He gets swept up in this mess like he's part of some twisted conga line. Can you imagine what the scene looks like here? It's absolute carnage out there, bits of car everywhere, 3 drivers probably wondering what the heck just happened. The crazy thing? All 3 guys walk away from this demolition derby. Talk about lucky. In fact, the incident was so spectacular that it even damaged part of the podium on the other side of the pit wall, which had to be fixed before the Formula 1 event that same weekend.
Luca Filippi spinning off, hits the barrier in a massive way, and the debris flies as he spins through numerous 360s.
If you thought that accident was bad, it's about to get even worse. Kral's zooming along, focused on the track ahead, when suddenly, bam, he realizes he's playing an unwanted game of catch-up with Rodolfo Gonzalez's Arden. And let me tell you folks, in racing, playing catch-up at 150 miles per hour is not exactly a fun party game. Before Kral can even think about hitting the brakes, his car decides it wants to be an airplane. I'm not kidding, this thing goes airborne like it's auditioning for a role in Top Gun. Kral's car launches skyward. For a split second, time seems to stand still. Everyone's holding their breath, but it comes crashing back to Earth, landing smack bang on its gearbox. Now, if you've ever dropped your phone on its corner, you know that's not the ideal way for anything to land. Multiply that feeling by about 1,000,000 and you're starting to get the picture. But oh no, we're not done yet. Kral's car, apparently not satisfied with its brief flight and rough landing, decides to keep the party going. It slams into the turn 17 barriers at a speed that'd make your head spin. The sound of metal crunching and tires screeching fills the air. It's the kind of crash that makes even the most seasoned racing fans wince. The pack spent several laps behind the safety car, and eventually the race was finished early under time limitations. Fortunately, Kral emerged okay after going to hospital.
Oh, and over the back of Gonzalez, and that's huge. Lands on the gearbox.
It all went down on lap 2 of the F2 sprint race. Kush suddenly lost control of his car, sending it into a spin. In a heart-stopping moment, his car launched into the air and landed right on top of his Campos Racing teammate Ralph Boschung's vehicle. The collision was spectacular and scary. Maini's car was literally perched on Boschung's, creating a stack of race cars in the middle of the track. Debris scattered everywhere as the 2 cars made contact, but the chaos wasn't over. Jack Crawford, unable to avoid the wreck in front of him, got caught up in the accident too. His car slammed into the mess, adding to the pileup. In a matter of seconds, the track went from a high-speed race course to a scene of twisted metal and scattered car parts. It was a sobering reminder of how quickly things can go wrong in motorsport. Thankfully, both drivers emerged okay after the incident. Meanwhile, some fans took to Twitter to express their discontentment that the race even started in the first place due to the poor visibility and conditions. Others remarked how grateful they were that the halo was there, as it could have just saved another life.
Touches the grass on the inside there, and Boschung had nowhere to go.
In what had been a lackluster season for the young driver from Barbados, with 5 straight finishes without points, things literally took a turn for the worse at the Italian feature race. Without warning, Roy Nissany's car slammed into the back of Maloney's, sending him into an uncontrolled spin across the pit straight. What followed was a terrifying sequence as Maloney's car, now completely out of his control, violently struck the wall not once, not twice, but 3 times in rapid succession. Maloney smashed his car into the barrier along the start-finish straight at one of the highest speed points on the track, before sliding across the road into oncoming traffic. Thankfully, Maloney walked away from the crash unscathed. He later said about the race, "I qualified bad, which put us in a difficult situation. Everything became difficult after that."
But that is a huge accident. That is enormous speed on a restart, and thank goodness everyone was able to avoid.
The Hockenheim ring's notorious Turn 11 became the stage for a heart-stopping moment during the race. As drivers approached the high-speed left-hander, Giancarlo Serenelli suddenly found himself in a terrifying situation. Without warning, Serenelli's brakes catastrophically failed just as he needed them most. In an instant, his car transformed from a finely tuned racing machine into an unguided missile. Spectators watched on in horror as Serenelli, now a helpless passenger in his own vehicle, shot straight off the track. The car bounced violently across the gravel trap, kicking up stones and dust in its wake. Despite the gravel's purpose as a speed-reducing safety feature, Serenelli's momentum was barely checked. The runoff area seemed to shrink as his car hurtled towards the barrier at frightening speed. With a sickening crunch, Serenelli's car slammed into the wall. The impact was brutal, sending debris flying and leaving no doubt about the severity of the crash. As the dust settled, silence fell over the circuit, everyone holding their breath and hoping for the best. The Venezuelan walked away unscathed before an underwhelming last-place finish the next day in the feature race.
Wow. That's a big, big crash.
Baku is one of those street circuits known for its chaotic layout and the high-speed crashes that come with it, and what happened in 2023 was pure racing chaos. It all kicked off when Dennis Hauger, probably still shaking off the safety car cobwebs, slammed into the wall outside Turn 1. But that was just the appetizer. Before anyone could catch their breath, Victor Martins decided to get cozy with the barrier too. Enter Jehan Daruvala, caught in this metal-crunching mayhem like a deer in headlights. With nowhere to go and no time to think, he plowed into Martins at eye-watering speed. What happened next was the stuff of nightmares. Daruvala's car somehow ended up underneath Martins, creating a terrifying automotive sandwich that had everyone's hearts in their throats. The gasps from the crowd could have been heard all across Baku City. But here's the kicker. Both Daruvala and Martins walked away from this metal-twisting ballet. It was nothing short of a miracle. F2 commentator Alex Brundle, in the meantime, gave a shout-out to the F2 Halo design, citing how much worse off the crash could have been if the protecting devices hadn't been introduced.
Oh, into the wall! Into the wall! Massive crash! And that is extraordinary!
And just when you thought that the Halo had saved enough lives in Formula 1, it worked its magic again, this time in 2022. Picture this, Roy Nissany and Dennis Hauger, 2 young talented drivers going head-to-head at Silverstone. It's the opening lap of the feature race, and things are about to get wild. Nissany makes a bold move, pushing Hauger off track as they head into the braking zone for the club chicane. Hauger's front right wheel takes a beating. Now his car is like a runaway train, careening over the grass with no chance of slowing down. But here's where it gets insane. Hauger's car hits this sausage curb, which sends it flying through the air like a scene from an action movie. And guess where it lands? Right on top of Nissany's cockpit. Could you imagine how scary that must have been for both of them? It's a heart-stopping moment as both cars come to a halt in the gravel. For a few tense minutes, there's no news about Nissany, but then a sigh of relief as we learn he's out of the car and doing alright. When the replays finally come through, it's clear that the Halo, that trusty cockpit-fixed safety device, saved Nissany's life. Without it, who knows what could have happened.
Hauger is off and into the path of another car. Big accident there.
Picture this, the lights go out and pole sitter Ceccon floors the throttle, but his wheels just aren't moving. His teammate Mitch Evans seizes the moment and takes the lead into Stidivut. But Ceccon's not giving up that easily. He tries to hold his ground on the inside line through the chicane, going head-to-head with Fabio Lema from Racing Engineering, and that's when things get crazy. Ceccon loses control and slams into the Armco barrier like a pinball, leaving Lema with nowhere to go but straight into the side of Ceccon's car. Lema's understandably furious. He says, "I was way ahead of Ceccon, but he was so focused on me that he forgot about the corner. He braked way too late, blocked me and put me into the barriers. It's a huge disappointment because I could have scored big points today, but once again, another driver took me out." Meanwhile, Sam Bird from Russian Time manages to navigate through the mayhem, but behind him, it's a whole different story. Julian Palmer spins out, blocking the path for the rest of the pack, and it's like a demolition derby out there. Cars are piling into each other left and right, and when the dust settles, a whopping 15 cars are parked at turn 1. 9 of them are so banged up that they can't even make it to the restart after a 40-minute red flag. Ceccon himself even received a race ban from the stewards for the incident, but more importantly, all drivers walked away from the crash unhurt. As the cars jostle for position at the start of the race, a dramatic incident unfolds. Kevin Ceccon, one of the drivers in the tightly packed field, suddenly finds himself in a perilous situation. In the blink of an eye, his car makes contact with another competitor, sending Ceccon's vehicle airborne. The sight of Ceccon's car leaving the ground is both breathtaking and terrifying. The car rolls and flips, its bodywork twisting and turning as it tumbles through the air. The sheer force of the impact and the gravity-defying nature of the incident leave spectators stunned. As Ceccon's car reaches the apex of its uncontrolled flight, it comes crashing down, rear end first onto the track below. The impact is severe, a testament to the incredible forces at play in these high-speed collisions.
So Ceccon, oh my goodness, touches out and rolls around and upside down, and then rear ends
against rear ends.
Wow.
All was set for the start of the 8th round of the 2009 GP2 Asia Series. The excitement was building and the tension levels were high. The 5 lights came and went and we were off racing. In a split second, the start line erupted into a scene of twisted metal and shattered carbon fiber. The commentary team's voices rose in a mixture of shock and concern as they reported that Yamamoto had stalled on the grid, becoming a sitting duck amidst the charging pack. The inevitable collision was massive, with the back of the grid piling into the stricken car at frightening speeds. The impact was so severe that it left onlookers stunned, fearing the worst for the drivers involved. As the dust began to settle, the safety car was deployed, allowing medical crews to rush to the scene. Hearts raced as everyone waited for news on the condition of the drivers. Thankfully, word soon came through that Yamamoto was okay, having somehow emerged from the wreckage unscathed. 3 or 4 other drivers were caught up in the melee, including Berman and Gonzalez, but miraculously, they too seemed to have avoided serious injury.
Contact, big contact.
That is into the back of Ceccon Yamamoto's car, no question about it. That's Yamamoto, or what remains of his car, I would think.
On the opening lap of the 2013 Abu Dhabi F2 sprint race, John Lancaster and Tom Dillman got a little too close for comfort. As the cars hurtled towards the chicane of turn 4 and 5, Lancaster pushed his car to the limit, hoping to gain an advantage over his competitors. However, as he navigated the exit of the chicane, Lancaster's car drifted just a little too wide, his wheels crossing the red curb that marked the edge of the track. The impact of Lancaster's car on the curb was enough to unsettle the delicate balance of his Hillman machine. The front of the car bounced upwards, the nose pointing skyward as Lancaster fought to regain control. But before he could react, his car made contact with Dillman's vehicle, which was running alongside him. The 2 cars became entangled in a dangerous embrace, their bodywork interlocking as they spun helplessly across the track.
Unfortunately, right on top of Dillman. So lucky, wasn't it? The wing is actually on Tom's head there.
Before his days in Formula One, Marcus Ericsson had a moment at the Monaco Grand Prix that he would never forget, a stark reminder of the challenges posed by the circuit's notorious swimming pool section. Ericsson was pushing his car to the limit, navigating the tight streets of the Principality when he approached the swimming pool complex. This section of the track is known for its fast corners and unforgiving barriers, and it was here that Ericsson's race took a dramatic turn. In an instant, Ericsson lost control of the rear of his car, sending him wide and bouncing over the curbs that line the edge of the track. The car launched into the air before crashing into the wall with a sickening impact, before his car slid all the way down to turn 15. The crash was devastating, ending Ericsson's race on the spot. Guido van der Garde's race started with an incredibly impressive launch off the grid, showcasing his lightning-quick reflexes and precise car control. As the lights went out, he managed to slice his way past several cars ahead of him, making bold moves and seizing every opportunity to gain positions. However, as the field hurtled through the first few corners, van der Garde found himself in a precarious situation. The close-quarters racing action saw him being squeezed by the cars around him, with the available track space rapidly diminishing. Despite his best efforts to hold his ground among the frontrunners, van der Garde's race took a sudden and dramatic turn when he found himself on the receiving end of an aggressive move by Jules Bianchi. Bianchi, also fighting for position, made contact with van der Garde's car, forcing him onto the grass at the edge of the track. With his tires losing grip on the slippery surface, van der Garde struggled to maintain control of his car. The high-speed nature of the circuit only compounded his problems, as he found himself a passenger in his own machine. In a heart-stopping moment, Bianchi's car crashed into van der Garde's, sending both vehicles careening towards the unforgiving barriers lining the track. The impact was severe, with Bianchi's car slamming into the wall with a sickening crunch. The collision marked a premature end to what had been a promising start for van der Garde. His race was over in an instant, his car left battered and broken by the side of the track. The race got off to a hectic start as drivers jostled for position. Stefano Richelmi, despite his best efforts to navigate the chaos, found himself locked in a tango with James Calado's Lotus. The two machines became entangled in a dance of carbon fiber, leaving both drivers to nurse the wounds of their damaged cars. Further back, the field was not spared from the early drama. Stefano Colletti's Coloni car fell victim to a separate collision, the impact shattering his hopes of a strong finish. But it was at the top of the hill where the real carnage unfolded. Johnny Cecotto saw his fortunes turn on a dime as he lost control of his Adax car at the treacherous Massanet corner. Like a domino effect, Cecotto's spin triggered a multi-car pileup, with many drivers unable to avoid the unfolding disaster. Among the unfortunate souls caught in the maelstrom was championship leader Davide Valsecchi. Already reeling from a poor start, Valsecchi's race went from bad to worse as he found himself ensnared in the chaos. His teammate Felipe Nasser suffered an even more dramatic fate, launched skyward over the back of Victor Guerin's Ocean car in a scene that wouldn't look out of place in a Hollywood blockbuster. The Rapax duo of Tom Dillman and Riccardo Teixeira, along with Coloni's Fabio Onidi and Lazarus driver Fabrizio Crestani, saw their races come to a premature end, the pileup claiming their cars as collateral damage. Amidst the carnage, James Calado emerged as a survivor, escaping the tangle with Richelmi to maintain his second-place position. But his Lotus car bore the scars of battle, its front wing hanging on by a thread, a testament to the unforgiving nature of the track.
Ceccon, eccolo là, la Nasra che salta letteralmente sulla vettura di Guerin e quindi vanno poi a toccarsi.
Guido van der Garde made a daring move, attempting to pass Fabrizio Crestani on the inside as they approached a sharp left-hand turn. It was a bold attempt to gain an advantage, showcasing van der Garde's determination to succeed. However, as the two cars raced towards the corner, Crestani, not realizing van der Garde was there, began to turn in. At that moment, the race took a terrifying turn. Crestani's car collided with van der Garde's, the impact sending shockwaves through both vehicles. What happened next was a scene that seemed to defy belief. Crestani's car, caught in the violent collision, began to roll, its wheels leaving the ground as it flipped through the air. The sight of the car somersaulting, its body twisting and contorting with each sickening rotation, was a heart-stopping moment for everyone watching. The incident served as a stark reminder of the risks involved in motorsports. The fine line between a successful overtake and a devastating crash had been crossed in an instant, leaving both drivers to confront the dangers they face on the track.
Palmer, and Palmer unsighted, didn't see Crestani coming through there. That was Crestani's corner.
The opening lap of the race took a chaotic turn when 4 cars crashed at the long turn 3 left-hander, forcing the red flag to be waved. The incident began when Artem Markelov, driving for Russian time, ran wide at the second corner. As he tried to rejoin the track, he hit the wall on the left-hand side, causing a puncture to his front left tire and losing his rear left wheel in the process. The damage to Markelov's car caused him to spin as he returned to the track, forcing Marlon Stockinger and Sergio Canamassas to take evasive action. Unfortunately, both drivers ended up in the barriers while trying to avoid Markelov's spinning car. All 3 cars untimely came to rest in the barrier at the same location. Further around the long corner, Jordan King also suffered a heavy crash. It's believed that King's accident was a result of front-end damage he sustained when he clipped the rear of Stockinger's car under braking for turn 2. Race officials determined that King was at fault for the contact with Stockinger, and as a result, the British driver was handed a grid penalty.
Artem Markelov, on l'a vu.
Non, le pneu visiblement qui ne touche personne.
Eau Rouge, the iconic corner at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, has been the scene of numerous spectacular crashes throughout its history in Formula 1. However, the incident involving Nobuharu Matsushita stands out as particularly dramatic and destructive. As Matsushita navigated the challenging Eau Rouge Radillon complex, he found himself closely following fellow driver Gustav Malya. Attempting to maintain a tight gap, Matsushita pushed his car to the limit, but in a split second, everything changed. Just as he reached the crest of Radillon, Matsushita suddenly lost control of the rear of his car. The vehicle snapped violently, sending him careening off the track. Matsushita's car swerved dramatically, hurtling towards the barrier with frightening speed. The impact was nothing short of devastating. Matsushita's car slammed into the barrier with immense force, the carbon fiber and metal components disintegrating upon contact. The once sleek machine was reduced to a tangled mess of debris scattered across the track. Miraculously, Matsushita emerged from the wreckage relatively unscathed. However, the psychological impact of the crash was evident. In an interview with Autosport, Matsushita recounted the terrifying experience, stating it was the biggest crash of my life.
Sometimes you lose the downforce and the steering wheels. Oh, look at that.
During Friday's practice session, Bolukbasi encountered a frightening moment as he navigated the high-speed section of the track in his Caru's car. Suddenly, the young driver lost control of his vehicle, sending it sliding helplessly towards the wall. The impact was severe, with Bolukbasi's car slamming into the barrier with tremendous force. The collision was so significant that it prompted race officials to immediately deploy the red flag, halting the practice session to ensure the safety of all drivers and to assess the damage to the track. The incident served as a stark reminder of the inherent risks involved in motorsports, even during practice sessions. It underscored the importance of driver skill, quick reflexes, and the effectiveness of safety measures in place to protect competitors.
He's just an absolute passenger to the freshly smoothed outside wall.
Monza, also known as the Temple of Speed, has seen some spectacular crashes over the last number of years, but few were scarier than Ayumu Iwasa in 2022. Iwasa was on track to improve his qualifying position on his final lap, but disaster struck as he entered the Parabolica, the last corner of the circuit. He lost control of his car and crashed heavily into the barriers, echoing Isaac Hadjar's earlier incident in the Formula 3 session. Flames and smoke erupted from the rear of Iwasa's car upon impact, but he later confirmed he was unharmed. The red flag brought qualifying to an abrupt end, with disastrous consequences for Theo Pourchaire. His first lap in the closing minutes was only good enough for 14th, and with no chance to improve, he will start both races this weekend outside the top 10. As we've seen, the world of Formula 2 is filled with moments that test the limits of both man and machine. The crashes we've witnessed are a stark reminder of the risks these drivers face every time they take to the track, but they also serve as a testament to the incredible advancements in safety technology and the unwavering bravery of the competitors.